Hey guys, this is Gabe, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Flash, the latest and close to last installment in the DC Extended Universe. But before we get into the reviewing, let's get into why I almost didn't watch this movie. I think what we all worried would bring this movie down is Ezra Miller. We're all aware of the controversies and stuff that went down. I think we all knew that the headlines would impact the movie somehow, and it did, but really not that much for me. It's just impossible to review this movie without addressing those. Anyways, let's get to reviewing. Oh man, here we are. The Flash is finally released and it is surprisingly incredible. That being said, it's not one of the greatest superhero movies of all time, like James Gunn said, but it's still a very fun time. Another worry that everyone had is that all the cameos and Easter eggs would overshadow The Flash in his own movie, but this is very much a Barry Allen story. The Flash is really the star of the show, and his actions caused every problem in the movie. And the movie's about him trying to undo what he did while trying to come to terms with the death of his mother. It's a great story with great performances. It's unsurprising to say that Michael Keaton had a great return as Batman. I loved every scene he was in. It was great. Sasha Calle stole the show as Supergirl. Despite everyone's criticisms, I was open to her version of Supergirl from the beginning, and I'm glad to say I was right. She was great. And Ezra Miller did a surprisingly great job at playing two versions of the Flash at the same time. It was really fun to watch. However, due to the controversies, there were a few scenes that were kind of confusing to watch. There were a few scenes with the Flash saving children, and it just flashed me back to the headlines, but I was able to ignore it after a while. Also, General Zod was in the movie and was a good villain, but I also forgot he was there, so he didn't really have much of an impact for me. There were also really emotional moments between the Flash and his mom. I cried during the final scene between those two, but I'll get more into that in the spoiler section. Anyways, now on to spoiler territory, because it's almost impossible for me to talk about this movie without talking spoilers. And oh man, do we have some spoilers to talk about today. We're going from the secret villain to the cameos in this movie that range from incredible to just straight up laughable. I loved most of the cameos, but there's one or two that just made me laugh. First, let's start with the secret villain. He's teased throughout the movie and then brought in towards the end. He was also leaked on Funko Pops and merch. Dark Flash. He's a future version of the Flash who kept traveling back in time trying to fix everything until he became this dark force that threatens the existence of the multiverse. This villain had a great concept, but he's taken away so fast that it feels like they did almost nothing with him. I love the villain, but it's disappointing how little screen time he got. And now, on to what everyone's waiting for, the cameos. Let's start with the ones that were great. I'm going to be talking about them based on what universe they appear in. First, Christopher Reeve's Superman and Helen Slater's Supergirl. I did not expect them to appear going in. It was great seeing them. I haven't even seen the movies they were in before, but I never expected them to appear, and that's what made it fun to watch for me. Next, and I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud, Adam West Batman. It's incredible to see him again, and it's much better that he had no dialogue because, he's dead. And rest in peace, by the way. Also, George Reeves' Superman, but I didn't know he existed, so I can't say much about him. There's also a variant of the Flash played by Teddy Sears, but I also didn't know he existed, so Now on to the cameos that were both laughable and incredible at the same time. Let's start with the one that once announced was the whole reason I watched the movie. Nicolas Cage as Superman. Holy crap, I was not expecting to see that. It is incredible seeing that this exists now. I want a Nick Cage Superman. I want a Nick Cage Superman movie. I loved it. It was hilarious seeing him in the suit and very fun to see it come to life. He was supposed to appear in a movie called Superman Lives, which would have been directed by Tim Burton, but that was canceled. Now finally, the most laughable and incredible cameo I've ever seen in a DC movie. George Clooney returning as Batman. I did not see that coming. I can't believe Clooney would even return after Batman and Robin, that abysmal failure of a movie. He went out of his way to apologize for that movie and promised never to play Batman again, yet here he is. That's insane. I laughed hysterically seeing this, and not just because of the Flash's reaction in the movie, which was also hilarious. What a freaking cameo. That's incredible. Also, as promised, that scene with Barry and his mom, I want to go into it fully and explain why I cried watching it. When Barry had to disguise himself and have a heart-to-heart with his mom, who didn't even recognize him somehow, I started crying after the music kicked in and it went into slow motion. It was such a beautiful scene. All just for the Flash to move on and accept that his mom died. It was heartbreaking. Also, I have to talk about the after-credit scene. God, did I hate it. Aquaman appearing in the movie was funny and kind of cool, but it was also really unnecessary since he's going to be recast in the DC universe. Just let it die, Warner Brothers. Let it die already. So, The Flash. Did the controversies and headlines ruin the movie? A little bit, but was it a bad movie? No, it was fantastic. Sure, it's flawed, and I forgot to mention how bad the CGI was at times, but I had a good time with it. The humor was the best in any DC movie I've ever seen, and it actually redeemed Ezra Miller Flash despite the headlines, so it was overall a fun movie. If a sequel happens, I'll watch it depending on the story. Anyways, that's my review on The Flash. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.